Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, where each week I look to introduce you to another guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled for this week's guest, Sloan Joseph. On with me, Sloan, kind of introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, everybody. I am Sloan Joseph, and I'm from the upstate of South Carolina. And I am an educator. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a mentor. I'm a podcaster. And so I do a lot of things. And in my spare time, when I'm not doing educational things or mentoring in the community, I like watching Golden Girls, the Law and Order, the original, not all the knockoffs. And let's be clear. And sipping coffee from Starbucks and eating waffle fries from Chick-fil-A. That's what I do.
Oh, Sloan, I have so many questions to ask you, and there's already so much that I absolutely love about you. I'm a Law and Order SVU fan, so I do got to say, I do love SVU.
Okay.
And I'm actually making my way through the entire series from the start right now on Hulu. But besides that, let me jump on into you. So the first question I always love to ask when I have these conversations is, as kids, we dream of what we're going to be when we grow up. Is what you're doing right now at all aligned with what you were dreaming as a kid?
No. Well, I went through several different things like we always do. So I wanted to be a lawyer at some point, and then I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, and I wanted to be an architect. So I wanted to be an architect until I took geometry. And so I was like, I don't think that's going to work out in my life. And so then I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, but then I took chemistry. And I was like, no, not going to do that. And then I wanted to be an English teacher. But I didn't end up being a business teacher. My father was like, he really wanted me to do something in like business or engineering or in the medical field. And so he was paying for my tuition. So I kind of had to do what he wanted me to do. But now that I'm an instructional coach, I get a chance to work alongside English teachers. So I guess I kind of am in like an indirect way, right?
Yeah. Well, this series, of course, is called Tell Your Story. And I love right away, I love your intro of how you introduce yourself, but I also love your answer to the first question, just how I love talking to educators where it wasn't their naturally born path, but they fell into it and fell in love. But I got to go back to your intro, and that is, you said you love Chick-fil-A fries. So I am a huge Chick-fil-A fry fan, only if you have the Chick-fil-A sauce with it. I'm not going to really care for them too much. But I'm a Freddy's fries fan. Like, that's my number one of all fries. So do you have a number two if you had to pick a number two?
Okay, so my number two, we have this place here called Five Guys.
Oh, yes.
And they had the Cajun fries. Get into it.
Yeah.
It's like fries on a whole nother level. I love that. We don't have a Freddy's. So I don't know if you and I will ever like meet face to face or present somewhere together, but we're going to have to like ride out, do a like ride out and go get us some Freddy's one afternoon or something like that. But I'm telling you, Todd, they've got this new cilantro lime sauce. It's new. And I didn't even ask for it when I went. They dropped it in the bag by accident, but Chick-fil-A does not make no mistake. It was meant for me to get into this sauce, and it is my new thing. You got to get into it.
I love it so much. Okay, so yes, when we hang out one day, we are going and getting some fries somewhere to enjoy. Right. And so, I want to dive into some of the other stuff too about you. You're a podcaster, and obviously I do it as well. So what drew you to wanting to kind of pursue that?
Really, like, not to be cliche, but just to tell my story. As a Black female educator who, I've worked in education for 18 years. Right. I've worked from K4 through 12th grade. Most of my experience has been in middle school, and that's my sweet spot. I love young adolescents from 10 to 15. So, and between 10 and 15 years old, they spend the most of their time with us in middle school. And I just believe that if you build and develop competent students between the ages of 10 and 15, it really sets them up for success long term. And so I just wanted to tell my story from my perspective, because I didn't hear a lot of podcasts by Black female educators who had worked in K 4 through 12th grade. I've worked in affluent schools, alternative schools, schools that receive Title I funding, magnet schools, and now I'm an instructional coach. I've been an administrator before, but realized that that wasn't what I really needed to be doing, that my passion was instruction and getting in those classrooms and helping teachers with their planning, preparation, and implementation. So I just wanted to tell that story. And then that intersection of me being a wife and a mom, and how being a mom, an educator, and a wife, like these crazy stories that happen. So when you listen to the podcast, it always has a message to inform, inspire, and influence you, but also to make you laugh. Because if you don't laugh, like, you can't make it through, and just trying to always find the good spot, even in a rough situation.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm going to subscribe as soon as we're done recording this because I already am so in love with the way that you converse and the way you tell stories. So I can't wait to check out more. But I kind of want to dig a little deeper into just something you just offhandedly mentioned there that is a little heavier than some of the stuff we've talked about right now. But you are a woman of color in a field of education where you're impacting hundreds every year. And I know it's nothing new to you, but over the last year or so, it's really become part of the conversation nationally and worldwide, just this reckoning on race and understanding the depths at which that still exists, racism and everything else in our country and biases and all that. And so I'd love to just hear from you. How are you doing, and how are you handling this additional spotlight where everybody else is now trying, or a lot of people are now trying to inform themselves and be better, but I know you're still carrying a lot of weight as well as a woman of color and being a mother and an educator. And so I'd love to just know, how are you doing?
I'm just taking it day by day, to be perfectly honest. It's a lot. It's heavy. It's hard to I have an 11, my son is 11. And I remember when Trayvon Martin was killed, he was only a few years old, and
Mhm.
just it just constantly happens. No sooner can you get over one incident or kind of heal from one, or try to heal from one incident, another one happens. And so, my husband, my father in love, my brother in loves, just, it's heavy. But what I do is I try to be hopeful, and I try to see what I can do to facilitate conversations. So a part of what I do with I have a consulting business called Greater is in Me. And so that's the name of the podcast. But I also have a book club, a virtual book club, where we read books that sometimes have some of those themes in that, about racial reckoning and the coming together and the unifying of different types of people. And then also just, I as possible, presenting as much as possible, doing things like this, sharing my story to normalize who I am and to humanize who I am to people who live in areas where they don't interact with people of color. That's not just something that they even think about, because that's not their existence.
Right.
And then I just keep myself free and open to answer people's questions when I am mentally and socially and emotionally ready. And I talk about it. I think it's episode 33 of my podcast, where I talk about the 5 steps of equity advocacy, and how you have to go through these steps. And what I can't do as an advocate when I'm in pain, when I'm grieving, is
Mhm.
answer questions, but I can provide you with information that you can then reflect on. And then when I'm ready for that conversation, I can have it with you. But it's hard for me right now to have that conversation when I'm grieving, and just feeling very sad and angry and frustrated at the same time, and trying to remain hopeful, because if I'm not hopeful, then what do I have to hold on to for my son and for my husband, my father, my brother in loves, my nephews?
You shared something really powerful there that I want people to hear. And that is, you shared that when you are grieving, when you are in this headspace where it's just really heavy for you, you're not in a place that you can answer those questions. You can have those conversations. And I think those of us who are in places of privilege and then trying to educate ourselves, sometimes we just get so like excited. Let me go ask my friends of color. And it's like, we don't take time to understand that it's a lot for you, and your job is not there to educate us. And so I think that was really powerful, and letting people know that sometimes you need to reflect over where they might be, and they might not be ready to have that conversation yet either. So I love that you shared that. So thank you for that piece. I want to jump a little bit to backwards in time, and that is, thinking about your own experience through school. What was school like for you?
I actually had a really good experience in school. I always, was on the honor roll, and for the most part, and I think my situation was a little different. Like, I was probably like one of the only kids that was on the honor roll and in the beta club, but also at ISS. Like, it's just a lot. So because I was like this small, skinny kid, and you got to survive in your environment, and kids, we had like bullying is like a new thing. It's not, and so I would defend myself, and then kind of have to take the consequences. But I appreciate the people back in the day who, didn't suspend me for every little thing and criminalize every little thing that I did. They saw the potential in me. So I was the kid, like if I had ISS, I would tell the ISS teacher, did my teacher send my work? They're like, no, they didn't send your work. Well, can I get a pass to go get my work? Because I can't get behind. And my teachers are like, just stay out of trouble, But I'm an example of like, if you just see beyond like that's me in middle school, right? In high school I was fine, but in middle school, you're just so impulsive and things, and people saw beyond that. But I will also credit the fact that my parents were advocates for me, and I think that makes the difference. Both of my parents are educated. My dad is a retired engineer, my mom is a retired nurse, and so they were able to hold teachers and administrators accountable while they were trying to hold me accountable too, and love me through all my mess.
Right.
And I think that's the piece. There are a lot of kids, they don't have anyone that advocates for them, and not because they don't care. And I try to make sure I say this in presentations, and I try to, stress this. Some people want to, but they don't know how to, because they didn't have a good experience in school. They internalize that because they don't speak a certain way, or because they don't dress a certain way, and they feel like they have to present themselves in a certain way, and because they're not that, they don't show up. And they're dealing with their own issues, their own mental health, their own self-esteem, and they don't have the words or the ways in order to advocate for their students. And so that's why it's important that we do our best to do the best we can by these children, regardless of if their parents come and advocate for them. Just do what's right by children, because it's not that parents don't care, they do, but sometimes it's not that they don't know they don't know how to have those conversations, or they're just not equipped to do that. And it's you can't change their experience and how they feel about school, but you can love on their kids and do what's best for them in their absence.
Well, you said so much goodness in there. I hope people just rewind that and re-listen to it over and over again. I love that. But Sloan, as we close out, the one question I always love to end all these conversations on, if there's somebody listening or watching today and they're only going to walk away with one thing, what is the one thing you want them to walk away with?
Oh my goodness. One thing. I want people I need people to lead with love. I need people to lead with love, like at the core of it. That doesn't mean that you don't discipline a child. That doesn't mean that you don't address a coworker that's doing something that they shouldn't be doing, but that you do it in a way that person, when you leave them, they're not broken. Like, I think that's where kindness is kind of getting us in a wrong spot, because people think kindness is, oh, I see it and I'm gonna act like I don't see it.
Right.
Just like we had this thing at our school about bullying that I posted one time, and it was like, if you see something, say something, right? So if you see something, as an administrator, you see some instruction that's not going right, some discipline and interaction that wasn't right. If you see something, say something out in your community. If you see an injustice going on, someone not treating someone well, if you see something, say something. But at the same time, there are ways in which we can do that where it brings about unity and not division. And I think that if we can really lead with love, that so much can happen. When you lead with love, you see the humanity in people. When you lead with love, you're able to give space and grace for people to make mistakes and to help support them through their development. So just lead with love.
I love it. That is the best way to end this. Well, Sloan, I've looked forward to this conversation. I'm so thankful for you spending some time with me today. And for
Absolutely.
everybody who was listening or watching, thank you for joining another Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out all the past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff. It's there. I hope today's conversation with Sloan has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.